Hey there, I just came on 1 second early to try to get everything set and start the live show in just a minute. Excuse me. I don't see it. All right. All right, that was easy. Welcome to Real Talk with Angry Soccer Mom. Hopefully this will be glitch free. I didn't do a ton of reminding people to come on, so maybe it'll be a really small group. I have a couple of videos I want to show you guys. But if you are watching, please say hello. I'm extremely happy to have you. And I have a very short rant. And after the rant, you can call in if you want. All right, so let's get this show on the road. Welcome to Real Talk with Angry Soccer Mom. More like technically incompetent soccer mom, but that's okay. And my kids don't play soccer, but hey. The live show discussion topics, as always, include anything you feel is newsworthy about anti-racism, bigotry, inequality, and corruption in America. And that's pretty much everything. The show's meant to be an opportunity for viewers to speak their mind and to serve as an educational tool in cultural competency with a focus on learning the truth about our real racial history and systemic racism. So if you're watching, please say hello. I would love it. I'm gonna have a bunch of stuff set up for everybody, but as always, it can be any topic you care to talk about. So I have a couple of announcements and then we will get started. And again, I have a short rant and you can call in right after the rant and tell me what you think or just write to me. All right. My announcements are as follows, but if you're watching, please say hi in the comments. I want to thank everyone for sending me breaking news. I count on you. I can't keep up with this insanity because right now, pretty much everything in America, we're trying to undo what Trump did, I guess, or get back so we can start forming a more perfect nation, but get back to where we used to be. So I wanted to thank everyone for sending me breaking news. I appreciate it very much. I can be reached in a personal message right here. Put that right up there. And if you'd like to call into the show to tell me what you think, here's the phone number right here. And please do it after the rant, after the crazy rant. All right. This week, I had an exciting week. I met with a woman, and I actually posted it all over the place on my Facebook page, but I met with a wonderful woman who does incredible work. And I'm going to save it. It's a secret. You guys can look it up on my Facebook page. Anyway, I am going to be talking a lot more about it. It's very personal. You actually get to learn one-on-one and meet the person who runs the group. It's amazing. And it's about moms getting together, and white, Black, brown, African-American, Indigenous, and talking about what's important to us and what we want in our world. And for white folks, it's a learning experience. So I'm really excited to work with her, and she will be having a lot of different seminars that I'll be advertising for you guys. And I hope you like it, and definitely check it out. It's on my YouTube channel right now. Excuse me, not my YouTube channel. It's on my YouTube my Facebook page. Blah, I'm here. So without further ado, this week I posted up a bunch of different videos. I posted an intensive video on being lied to. Just it's all about basically the lie of critical race theory, and I was pretty blunt about it, really, really upfront. So that was a little bit crazy. At the very end of it, I listed 15 events of suppression that were carried out over the decades, over centuries, that make it more difficult for Black Americans to gain generational wealth, to hand down to their families. But what I also did was I allowed some parents who were adamantly opposed to critical race theory. Well, first of all, because they don't know what it is. And they've twisted it. They've given it this horrific twist. It's critical race theory is our own racial history. That's all it is. It's nothing like, it's called that, but it's basically our own racial history. And I guess the GOP's done a fantastic job spinning it and making it into this big lie about teachers are supposed to go teach the white kids to be guilty. It's so ridiculous. I don't even know where to go with it. But anyway, I put that up, and it's kind of an intense video. I posted another video this week about the Minneapolis protester who was run over. She was protesting the murder by police of Winston Smith Jr. And apparently somebody rammed their car right through the protest, and a car hit another car and hit her. So it's just a terrible thing. It's white supremacist terrorism, really. Just a horrible thing. The woman was killed, so it's really sad. Another video I posted, there was a series of homophobic Karens that came on. And these Karens, they came on and they basically made a scene by the pool. They were both pool scenes. No clue why. They were both like embarrassing pool scenes where the women in them were white women, apparently straight, and they were not going to have anyone who wasn't, I guess, straight around them. It was a horrible situation because they really pointed out, they spoke to their own insecurities and immoral behavior, not anyone else's. And of course, they went viral. I'm sure their lives are miserable, etc., etc. And I am just going to take 1 second to find out. Make sure I am on, because so far there is no one there. This is so sad. Give me 2 seconds. And being that I'm a tech genius, there's always a chance that I didn't do this right. All right. So another video I put on was, this is kind of interesting. There is a group that is kind of like the Lincoln Project a little bit. They're called the Midas Touch, but it's spelled differently than the car place. And they apparently paid a whole bunch of money to go on Fox and advertise about what police thought when they had to handle the insurrection at the Capitol. And the police were just, telling their story and going on. And as it turned out, they refused to air it. So they paid for it, and it was a huge ordeal. So MSNBC and a couple other stations were trying to air it anyway. And I posted it. It was basically the police who were involved in the Capitol insurrection, trying to stop the people, telling how terrified they were. So kind of interesting. The next one I put up, and this is crazy talk. This is just like absolute crazy talk. This an Oregon politician, GOP politician, he months and months back, we saw a video where he snuck people into the Oregon building. It had to do with COVID. Some rioters wanted to get in, and it was really scary because he was caught on camera. Well, lo and behold, this week he was caught on camera doing something else, setting the whole thing up. So it was very interesting. Even though he was, a GOP and he had let those people in, he had set them up, told them ahead of time. It was premeditated that he was going to do that. So that was caught, and they booted his butt out. So that's going to be part of a video I'm going to show by Chris Hayes tonight on what we need to do with all politicians who do corrupt / illegal / criminal things. So, and the last video I did was about all these different massacres. Now, there were so many massacres. I haven't posted it yet. There's so many massacres going on in this country against Black people and against brown people. And I only did the ones against Black people because there were just too many. Like literally there were too many. So this Friday, I will be posting my top 10 race massacres in America that you may never have heard of. And the reason I'm doing that is because unless we know the past, exactly how bad it was, the depth of hatred, there's no way we can comprehend what's going on in modern times right now. So we really, really need to know our real racial history. Otherwise, we're pretty much ignorant to knowing what's going on today because we don't understand what happened, and a lot of what has happened has long-term effects. And a lot of what's happening now still has long-term effects. So tonight, I have 3 topics that I prepared for. And one of them is, but we can talk about anything anybody wants. If I don't know about it, just bring it up and we'll go from there. My first topic is how to deal with the political abuse of power. And Chris Hayes is going to help me on that one because he did such an incredible, not really a rant, just incredible programming. And I'm going to show you that. And the second one is the history of violent voter suppression. I don't know if people in this country are quite aware, but this is what the far right has been doing forever, trying to stop people who are legally allowed to vote from voting. So this is a thing. And then the third thing is Stacey Abrams' campaign for stopping voter disenfranchisement or voter suppression, like we call it. So I'm going to get started and we will go from there. And I will put one more quick stop. And I'll get started with my rant and we'll see what happens. I'm not sure if, whoa, everyone's busy tonight, not able to get in, but I'm missing my people. I'm not sure why, but I'm just going to go ahead. Supposedly I'm on. Maybe I'm scaring people away tonight. I don't know. We'll find out. So my rant today is about some of the messages that I get. And it's kind of funny. I don't like to make it like all about me or anything like that. But just see here. I think, hang on one second. I'm going to do, okay, just making sure I'm on okay. I'm going to do my rant and then I'll go from there. And it is kind of about me, I have to admit that. But it's about me, but I just want to clarify something to some of the folks that give me crap and hate letters and hate messages, I guess you could say, and all that. White folks always tell me that I support anti-racism because I feel guilty and that I want everyone else to feel guilty. That's my shtick. That's my thing. And tonight I wanted to dispel that myth 100%, maybe 110%. I actually have a hunch that these people say this because they're actually reflecting their own feelings, not mine. I don't feel guilty at all. Maybe for them, this is all about guilt because they have something to feel guilty about. Guilt for them might be the only reason they'd ever support their fellow humans. I don't know. I don't know what else to think. But I assure you, for me, this is not guilt. Oh, no, it is not. I'm pissed. It's anger. I just think this nation has given us an incredible opportunity. It's an opportunity of a lifetime, well, my lifetime at least, and we're throwing it all away for hate. You know, the United States, say what you want about the founding fathers, the Constitution we have is amazing, and it is meant to move with us over time. And quite frankly, it's supposed to be the will of the people, and we've really lost our way. Oh, yes, we have. So first of all, I wanted to say, I support equity and justice for everyone. Yes, for Black people and for white people too, and for disabled people, and for mentally ill people. And okay, you get it, all people. But right now, Black folks and brown folks are being denied their human and civil rights, like off the charts. So that's who I focus on, right? It's not out of guilt. It's out of thinking this is crazy. This is insanity. Why do we do this? We're ruining our own country. We're harming people terribly, but we're also ruining our own nation. We're going to lose our democratic republic, or whatever you want to call it, oligarchy. And pretty much that's us. We did it to ourselves. Right now, it's not white people's turn. Okay. We have a privilege. We have all that. And now we need to get everyone else to speed and to stop being divided like the wealthiest elites love. When we're divided, the wealthiest elites can get away with all their terrible things, making themselves rich and everyone else suffer. And we're fighting because, wow, we think Black people did everything. We think brown people, it's the dumbest thing in the world. The people who are wrecking our lives are the wealthiest people. They're out of fucking control. All right. But we're too busy saying, Black people did this. So it's so crazy. So tonight, I'm going to list 3 reasons why, no, it is not guilt. Nice try, though. First, I support human equity and justice for all because I am a human. And I believe that what makes us special as a human is that we don't have to rely solely on our instinct to survive. We've been given the gift of critical thinking skills. We can have a strong emotion, but then stop ourselves and actually stop ourselves and say, this is not logical. This does not make sense. We don't have to act on our emotions. We can think, and that is such a cool thing. Second, I can't stand watching abhorrent injustice and not being able to act on it or stop it. It's just a personal thing. I can't stand the cruel, inhumane injustice. That's exactly what systemic racism is. It's an ongoing crime against humanity. And last, it's because it's really un-American. It's been so American because we do it, but if you're following our Constitution and believe in it, it's actually very un-American. Our Constitution tells us that we are all supposed to have the same chances to succeed. And then some people do, and some people don't. And most people are in between. But so purposefully creating a system to ensure a second or third class citizenry, like we do with systemic racism, is against everything our Constitution stands for. We pass amendments so that we can actually become a better nation and right our wrongs with each passing generation. Our charter is to form a more perfect union. And this means we uphold an almost religious belief in our Constitution. The ideology has to supersede any party lines that we may support. The number one uniting factor that bind Americans together is the idea that our democratic republic, supported by our Constitution, is our guide. It's what makes us Americans. I have absolutely happily chosen to dedicate my life to supporting equity. It is a privilege for me to have the time to do it for all my fellow humans, because this nation actually could be great. We have a great setup here. We could be the leader in shaping cutting-edge humanity for the entire world. The world could be watching us as a role model. We got all the backing to do it, but instead we've allowed systemic racism to run rampant in every system of life. So white people live in a fantasy world of false beliefs and human-made constructs. I fight for equity for all because in my heart, I just can't help but feel we gotta be better than this. Let's put people all in line by colors, and then we'll just, because we can see colors like when we were in kindergarten, when we did little groupings, and let's just say one color is really bad. No, that is like ludicrous. That is, we are so lucky to have the ability to critically think, but we're not, some of us aren't using it. And quite frankly, I can't stand watching our culture of racist, bigoted hatred become the norm. It's just not what I had in mind for my kids. I don't know if it's what you had in mind for yours. It's not just un-American to treat our fellow citizens like crap. It's and do nothing while systemic racism thrives, but it's inhumane. All it will take is one generation, just one generation of people to say, this ends with me. Because Black people are gonna get their equity. Black and brown people, oh yeah. They do not need a white hero. They do not need a martyr, somebody to say, yay, I did this for them. Aren't I great? They will accomplish this with or without us. But I, for one, I want to be part of the solution. I want it to come sooner than later, and I want to help, not lead, help. And it's way past time to learn our real racial history and unite with those who are highly abused and oppressed and make this stop. Racism is not in anyone's best interest, unless maybe you're a bazillionaire. I don't know. What I'm talking about here is the worst nightmare of the wealthiest elites who run this nation. It's their worst nightmare, uniting against the real oppressors of the masses, the wealthiest elites who have allowed greed to break down the checks and balances that uphold the spirit of our Constitution. I believe we can have liberty and justice for all. So that in this nation actually will work for all the people, a government of the people, by the people, for the people, but only if we abolish systemic racism. Systemic racism is a distraction that the wealthiest elites must keep alive and thriving so that white folks are consumed with their hatred and they don't realize they're being played by people who are benefiting from it. We're working for them for free. I truly believe that if we don't unite against systemic racism, our democratic republic, or whatever you want to call it, as we now live it, is gone. This great experiment will perish from this earth. So in conclusion, no, this is not about guilt, not even close. It's about being human and wanting to have a chance at forming a more perfect nation for me and for you. Rant over. If you are watching, please say hello. I am going to go into the first topic. If my rant is over, if you want to call in and say hello or tell me what's on your mind, I would love it. And we'll go from here. So welcome to Real Talk with Angry Soccer Mom. The first thing I wanted to do tonight was to talk about the abuse of power and how to fix it. And I found the most incredible video on it by Chris Hayes. So I will start us, but he will finish us. And hopefully that'll give us something to talk about. I thought he did a fantastic job putting it all together. If we're going to save our democratic republic, we have got to have accountability and reform. It has to take place. If Trump, honestly, we have to guarantee that the abuses of power that have taken place, the corrupt circumventing of the spirit of our Constitution, are never repeated. They can't be repeated. If Trump isn't prosecuted for his crimes, this will happen again. And the next person, we might not be able to vote out. So before we discuss this topic, I want to show you a video I found from MSNBC's Chris Hayes. It's a little bit long, but extremely worthwhile. I thought he did a fantastic job of putting it together, so I hope you like it. He says it better than anything I could say, so I hope you like it, and let's get that started.
With a person who abuses their position of authority. An elemental question in the history of human government and human affairs, a question our country has been confronting persistently since long before Donald Trump, but even more insistently during his presidency and its aftermath. Today, as we digest new revelations about the scope of the abuse of power that occurred under the former president, we are also seeing an answer to that very question, and it comes from Republicans. Not the ones in the nation's capital, not the ones associated with the exiled chieftain of Mar-a-Lago. Rather, it comes from the Republican Party in the state of Oregon. State lawmakers there confronted the same question that we are now confronting as a society, the same one that Democrats and Republicans alike confronted at the nation's capital on January 6th, how to deal with a person who has egregiously abused their power, a person who has transgressed. In this case, it was one of their own, Republican State Representative Mike Neerman, who was caught on surveillance video opening the door of the Capitol to let in a mob last December. That mob, which was allegedly upset about coronavirus restrictions in the state, then managed to overcome officers and invade the building. Some of them carried guns and bear spray and called for the arrest of Governor Kate Brown. And then another video emerged from just a few days before the mob reached the Capitol, showing Mike Neerman explaining how he would let protesters into the building.
We're talking about setting up Operation Hall Pass, which I don't know anything about, and if you accuse me of knowing something about it, I'll deny it, but there would be some person's cell phone, which might be 971, but that was just random numbers that I spewed up. That's not anybody's actual cell phone. And if you say, I'm at the west entrance during the session and text to that number there, that somebody might exit that door while you're standing there. But I don't know anything about that. I don't have anything to do with that. And if I did, I wouldn't say that I did.
Yesterday, Mike Neerman faced a vote on expelling him from the Oregon legislature. I have to say, given the politics of the Republican Party right now, I didn't know which way the vote was going to go. Just ahead of the vote, Neerman defended himself, doing his best Tucker Carlson impression.
You're considering expelling a member for the first time in history because he thinks that people should have access to their capital, especially during session. After this session, we're all going to go out to dinner or stop at the grocery store, or maybe tomorrow we'll shop and buy clothes or get our oil changed, because all these places are open, but not this building.
Oh, you're persecuting me because I just want people to be in the Capitol. That ridiculous excuse didn't work. The resolution to expel him passed 59-1, with only Neerman voting to save himself. He was formally expelled from the Oregon legislature. And that is an example of tangible accountability for a wild transgression. And I bring you this story tonight because it's noteworthy and newsworthy, but also because, boy, is it rare, huh? You probably have to go all the way back to Richard Nixon to find another U.S. president who abused his authority at the scope and scale of Donald Trump. And Richard Nixon actually did face some accountability. He was forced to resign from office after the House Judiciary Committee adopted 3 articles of impeachment against him. And even though President Gerald Ford pardoned him in a wildly unpopular move, many people in Richard Nixon's orbit were held accountable for their actions. All of these people were prosecuted and served time in the wake of the Watergate scandal. Look at that. The list includes the Watergate burglars, Nixon's White House counsel and personal attorney, his chief of staff, even his attorney general, John Mitchell.
Given the circumstances, Mitchell was in a relatively good mood as he arrived at the prison. All Mitchell said was, "It's nice to be back in Alabama." He is assured of staying in Alabama at least 20 months. That's how long it will be before he's eligible for parole from his sentence of from 2.5 to 8 years. During the time he is here in this minimum security prison, officials say Mitchell will be treated the same as any other prisoner. So, John Mitchell, former U.S. Attorney General, is wearing prison clothes now.
Now, the reckoning and the accountability didn't stop there, okay? Across the nation, from legislators in Congress to the media to regular everyday citizens, the civic spirit of the time was that what happened in the Nixon presidency was so horrifying and aberrant, it must be a symptom of a broken system, and that system had to be reformed and fixed lest it happen again. And so an incredible wave of reform began. There was the Church Committee, led by Democratic Senator Frank Church of Idaho, that looked into the secretive doings at CIA, NSA, and FBI and found the agencies were spying on Americans and running roughshod over the law all over the world and at home. In 1974, we saw the birth of modern campaign finance reforms after so much of the Watergate scandal involved what were essentially slush funds from shady donors being moved back and forth. In 1978, President Jimmy Carter signed a new law limiting electronic surveillance, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA. You probably heard about that. All of this, the entire structure of regulation and oversight for all this was erected to make sure we could not have another Richard Nixon. And in the wake of more revelations about the Trump presidency, it's hard to say it's held firm. We clearly need another round of reform. We need more accountability for those who have done wrong, those who have transgressed and have abused their authority. And we also need to protect our government against future would-be Donald Trumps, including this Donald Trump. That's what the Boston Globe editorial board is calling for this week in a new 6-part series about preserving our democracy called Future-Proofing the Presidency. It makes a really strong case for the importance of indicting and prosecuting Donald Trump for his conduct in office, arguing that allowing him to go unpunished would set a far more dangerous precedent than having Trump stand trial. To reform the presidency so that the last 4 years are never repeated, the country must go beyond passing laws. It must make clear through its actions no person, not even the president, is above them. This comes in the wake of the New York Times report yesterday revealing that prosecutors in the Trump Justice Department subpoenaed Apple for data from the accounts of at least 2 Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee, aides and family members. One was a minor. All told, the records of at least a dozen people tied to the committee were seized in 2017 and early 2018, including those of Representative Adam Schiff and Representative Eric Swalwell of California, who said in an interview Thursday night he had also been notified his data had been subpoenaed. We know that Trump DOJ also secretly seized phone records of reporters at the New York Times, CNN, and the Washington Post, imposed a gag order on CNN and the Times. When you put all this together, Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell, Intel committee members, staffers, presumably on the Democratic side, family members, a minor, the New York Times, CNN, the Washington Post, well, it reads like an enemies list, right? Richard Nixon notoriously also kept a list of enemies and used the government to spy on them. Now, let's be clear. The Trump administration, as far as we know from the reporting we have so far, appears to have gone through the quote-unquote proper channels, which is to say the DOJ issued legal subpoenas. He didn't have like his henchmen breaking into their therapist's office like, Donald Trump did. We know how Donald Trump and the people that followed him behave, which is to say, even if they went through the proper channels, this is almost certainly exactly what it looks like. And now, as we consider this revelation and the perilous state of American democracy, consider that there has been neither accountability nor reform for any of the characters in this drama. And for obvious reasons, it cannot stand. Cannot go on like this. The abuses were so great, the threat to the country's rule of law and to democratic self-governance so severe, that to let it go unrecognized and unreckoned with will bring some kind of cataclysm. It's honestly just a question of when. It is the job now of everyone in power, Democrats, Republicans alike, though I don't have much faith, to get to the bottom of what happened in toto, to hold people to account across the various areas of wrongdoing and implement the reforms needed to make sure it does not happen again. With a person who...
All right. Thank you so much. That was Chris.
Uses their position of authority.
He's still talking. And I cannot I appreciate him so much. Here's the thing. I personally could not have done such an incredible job. So instead, I had him come on. So I don't know if you're out watching, tell me what you think. I mean, you can call in the numbers if you scroll up, or you can just tell me what you think in writing. I think he's completely right. I think we're really, really screwed unless we hold everybody accountable so that we can show exactly who did the wrong thing and have reform, because it will happen again. And unfortunately, I don't think this nation is going to be able to keep up our end of this experiment, because we're allowing corrupt people to get away with things with no accountability. We all know what happens when people aren't held accountable. They do it again. And if they don't do it again, somebody else does it again. So, it's a free for all. I'm really scared for our country, and I'm going to leave it at that. I thought Chris Hayes did better than I could ever do on the plan, in my entire life. So that's why I showed his. If you have anything to say about it, please give me comments or call in. The next thing I want to do is talk about, and this is going to sound so crazy, but all this voter suppression and disenfranchisement that's going on, this is nothing new. And I think, Ronald, yay, it's okay. I'm glad you're here. It's a small crowd tonight, so definitely chime on in. We just finished listening to Chris Hayes talk about accountability. I think it's kind of pathetic that we have to talk about accountability, but apparently we do, since it looks like there ain't going to be any, or at least not much for most. And that means that there will be no reform, and there will be very, very little chance that this won't happen again. This is going to happen again. So anyway, I'm glad you're here. I want to move on to my second topic, unless somebody else wants to bring something up, which is the voting, the voting suppression. This is not new. We all know this. This is how it goes with far right, and it's how it's always been. And to kind of bring that point home, not that I want to, I'm going to chat for a second, and then I'm going to show you some massacres that have to do with voting, and they are not pretty. They are horrific. I will not go into detail. I have a top 10 video coming around probably on Friday that will be top 10 race massacres you probably never heard of. Well, you might have, but most people haven't. Carried back. As someone who came from came of age in the Watergate era, this is nothing that Chris Hayes. There's nothing that Chris Hayes says or actions that he champions that are new to me. What was done then should be done now, times 10. Amen to that, absolutely. And yet here we are. I'm pretty sure we're going to let everyone get away with this. If that's not the twilight of our democracy, I don't know what is. I'm no political expert, but I am kind of alive on the planet. So I think that this is this lunacy. What do you think about, Ronald? Thank you, Carrie Beck. What do you think about Juneteenth passing by the Senate as a national holiday? I think it should have been a national holiday forever ago. I think, to be quite frank about it, I have a lot of things I think. It was passed by I didn't read any articles on it. I heard it on the news, so I didn't really get to hear the whole thing. I heard it on the news on the way home, and I was like, wow. But a lot of times, if it was just the Senate, I'm sorry, that's what that, okay, I'm just going to say it. What that says to me is this, that they want to throw us all a bone, oh, here, little doggy, here, see, we gave you a bone. a holiday. That should have been a holiday forever ago. And they are doing horrific things to our country right now. And whereas that's a lovely gesture and it should have been forever ago, people are going to use that and say, well, you see, they're not racist. And that to me is enraging. You see, all of you people are wrong. You just think the reason they keep trying to stop people from voting, and the reason they, they just, it seems like they're really inhumane to Black and brown people. Well, it's not because they're racist. I just find that to be a little obnoxious. I don't even know where to start with it, to be honest. But I did not read an article. So usually I don't talk about what I haven't read about. But yes, thank you. If you have more information to tell me, Ronald, I would love to hear it. It just seems to be a little bit fishy. The Mask, angry. Can you get a thumbs up? Can you get a thumbs up when you show your feet? Actually, I am barefoot. And to be honest, I don't usually do that on this show. This is more of a, serious thing. But if you like feet, I understand that. But maybe this might not be the right channel for you. I'm just saying. I don't usually do that, but never had that request before. So on that lovely note, The Mask, I will keep going. So the right wing has known forever and ever that most Americans vote Democrat, I suppose. And the polls show that a large majority of Americans don't really want racism thriving in this nation. But here's the thing. In order to win over the centuries, the conservative right wing has found ways to circumvent the spirit of our Constitution. We all know voting is a huge thing for our nation. But they also have said out loud, many, that they want to stop it. Some of the things they've been doing to try to stop it have been technically legal, but many have been heinously barbaric and criminal over time. It's nothing new. It's just maybe new to us if we don't really know our own racial history. So as you all know, most people know the Tulsa massacre was one massacre out of scores and scores. Ronald, I definitely think it's a diversion attempt, LOL. I saw a press conference on it this afternoon and it looks like it's going to be passed. And I think it's awesome that it's going to be passed, but damn, how dare they? It's like throwing a bone when you need, like, God, so much more. I mean, I don't want to say throwing a bone because I'm putting it down and I have no right to say that. It's just, in my opinion, based on the horrific, the white supremacy insurrection that they directed and basically perpetrated and did, based on their trying to stop Black people from voting, and based on how racist they've stuck with Trump's total racism. It just seems like they have to have ulterior motives. And the only thing I can think of is they're trying to pacify people. See, we gave you a holiday, so we won't give you your human rights, but we'll give you a holiday. Sorry, that's my take. And unless I hear or find otherwise, I'm sticking to it. Normally, I really don't comment on things I haven't read about, but I broke my rule. It's just a little out there. So thank you, though. That's a really great question. I hope I answered your question. As you know, the Tulsa massacre was one out of scores of massacres that occurred in the United States. The Mask, you're on the wrong channel. You're very funny, but I think you're on the wrong channel. I can't show feet for I can't prostitute myself for subscribers. I just can't do it. But thanks for asking, I guess. Interesting. Never heard that one before. Tonight, I'm going to go over very briefly 3 more massacres. Sounds kind of horrible, and they are, that occurred, that were done specifically to terrorize and stop Black people from voting. Ronald, I think you're probably right, and we'll have to wait to see what the hook is. Yeah, I trust equals 0, you know, and it's great that they're going to allow that to go through. You know, they should have, like, centuries ago. But yeah, I'm not buying it. I think they're full of shit. What can I say? The first massacre I wanted to talk about is, a lot of people haven't really heard of these, and I hadn't heard of a lot of them, so I've been studying them like crazy. It's the Appaloosa Massacre. Anyone know about that one? All about stopping people from voting. I'll do a quick review of it, and then I'm going to show you guys, tell you one more, and then there's this amazing video that I had never even seen before that I want to show you. All right, so bear with me. Feet or no feet, I hope you can stick with me here. On September 28th, 1868, there was the Appaloosa Massacre, one of the worst outbreaks of violence during the Reconstruction period. It took place in Louisiana, Appaloosa, Louisiana. And the event started with 3 local members of the KKK beating a white teacher. And this guy was a newspaper editor. His name was Emerson Bentley. He was teaching class at the time. So, I mean, these guys lost their shit. The attackers' goal was to reverse dramatic political gains made by Black citizens after the Civil War, and to intimidate them from exercising their newly found rights, and restore the racial hierarchy of the slavery era. I mean, we know this is obviously what they were trying to do. And they really didn't like this guy because he was trying to educate Black people about how to vote and how to sign up to vote, he was teaching them how to, you know, go about exercising their civil rights. And so it's just a horrible, horrible thing. It started with that, and then it just was out of control. After some African Americans came to help, you know, rescue him and try to help, armed mobs ended up roaming the countryside in a murderous rampage, killing more than 250 people, mostly African Americans. These violent acts, this era, this time period became known as the Appaloosa Massacre, and most people have never heard of it. Now, you might think, why in the hell is this lady telling me about horrible, horrible things back in history? Well, I'm here to tell you why. It is quite simple for me. Most white folks do not have any idea about the depth and extent of hatred and cruelty that has gone on in this country towards Black and brown people, because they don't know their own racial history. They don't want to know. It's really horrible. It is horrible, but we need to know, because you see, when I hear white folks denying what's going on here, oh, it was just the police feared for his life, like over and over and over. I have to call bullshit on it, and people are like, why? If you know your own racial history, you realize, oh my God, what the depths of hatred were just so immense, and they still are. They're just in different forms. They are much more covert. We got good at this. You can the law can't change someone's heart. You can circumvent laws, you know, and we do a damn good job of that. And so it's imperative that white folks understand the truth about how bad it was and how bad we were, because we're still doing it, not for guilt, but to understand. No, it's not inconceivable that police in America started off as slave patrols, and the culture really hasn't changed that much. The blue line, the blue wall, we all know about it. I don't see people in the streets yelling, screaming, saying, what? Police cover up for each other when they're crooked or corrupt? We all know about it. I don't hear people yelling. It's a norm in our culture that police are criminals, basically. Carried back last night, the Matthew Down with Brian Williams on the 11th hour. It is all bad, but when we get to the point where people who are motivated to show up and struggle, continued, I'll keep when you're done, I know it's hard, and do all they can to vote, but their vote isn't counted. Well, that's an entirely different level of autocracy, and that's where Republicans want our country to head. Absolutely. So I'm starting off, but with these other massacres for voting, but we'll get to the present too. This is what we do. It is incredibly corrupt and inhumane, and it's against our Constitution. But you see, you can't change a person's heart. So people, if they hate enough, will circumvent the spirit of our Constitution, and that's what they're doing. So thank you, Carried Back, for your great wisdom. Yeah, and it's happening. We are at the twilight of our democracy, and a lot of people don't really give a shit. Freedom is not free. I guess kind of forgot about that. So the next massacre was called the Camilla Massacre, and this one, the Camilla Massacre occurred in Georgia in 1868, similar timing to the other one, during Reconstruction. In early September, white Democrats in the Georgia legislature expelled, kicked out 28 African-American members. In response, one of those, Philip Joyner from Southwest Georgia, led several hundred freedmen on a march from Albany to Camilla for a Republican rally. All right. They booted him out. They said, you have one drop of blood that's black, so you can't be in. I mean, it's crazy. The political rally in Mitchell County resulted in at first, a dozen freedmen being killed, murdered in cold blood, and 30 wounded. This was just as Georgia was being readmitted to the Union, but Black folks were still being abused horrifically by white folks. The violence sent a clear message, and many Black voters stayed home for the presidential election. And the massacre made headlines, and it was supposedly the massacre that prompted Georgia to have to be occupied by the military. But they never admitted it until 130 years later. What they did, they murdered these people in cold blood, and most of them were the politicians. And it's just insane. Most of these horrific race massacres end up, there's no repercussions for the murderers. They get away with it. It's just lost in history. This next one is really bad. She has relatives. This is about her relative. He had relatives, and so I wanted to show you this incredible, horrific Ocoee massacre. And this lady speaks and tells the entire thing in the most eloquent and emotional way. I feel her words, and I hope you do too. This is the third one of tonight. And then we can talk about what's happening now. So let me just...
On On the surface, Sharon Cooley McWhite has a good life. She's a teacher, has a loving family and home, but her family carries around a tragic past, one that forever connects them to the largest incident of voting day violence in U.S. history.
And the pain and suffering that we felt from this horrific event 100 years ago was richly a part of who we are.
She's talking about the Ocoee Massacre of 1920, when her great-uncle Julius July Perry was lynched and an unknown number of African Americans were murdered, all because a black man tried to exercise his legal right to vote on Election Day.
The details of how he was killed is very hard for me to share and talk about, but he was killed, senseless.
It's an ugly story, so prepare yourself. Pam Swartz, chief curator at Orange County's Regional History Center, says there are hundreds of versions of what happened on November 2nd, 1920. We do know July Perry's friend tried to vote but was turned away from the polls. That night, a mob of armed white men, possibly including some KKK members, went to Perry's home looking for his friend.
They say there's anywhere from 6 people to 100 who showed up. A riot broke out. There were gunshots fired. At some point, the firing continues. There are actual fires set to these homes.
McWhite says her great-uncle Perry was captured, taken to jail, and the next day lynched and hanged.
It's the unthinkable. But the most important part is not how he was killed, it's why he was killed. That's what we need to talk about.
The general idea is that this was all to make sure that African Americans were not getting out to vote. It was to take land from people who were rising to prominence, who were creating a life for themselves.
Some newspaper headlines in 1920 focusing on 2 white men who were murdered during the riots instead of the 6 to 60 African Americans who were reportedly murdered. Their homes and churches burned to the ground, part of the white population intent on driving out the some 250 black people who were living there.
By 1930, there are only 2 people listed on the census, and they are both listed as single individuals who are servants in Ocoee.
It would take some 50 years before African Americans moved back to Ocoee. McWhite says she can see the city is making progress in diversity, but believes as a country we're still dealing with voting issues.
There are so many of us still have that fear. The fear that if we do vote, the consequences, the fear of standing for what's right, how it would affect our family members.
When it comes to honoring her great-uncle's legacy, McWhite says there's been progress. In 2018, Ocoee officials issued a proclamation acknowledging its dark past. There's a monument at the hallowed ground in Ocoee, reportedly a site of an African-American cemetery. There's also a new sign in downtown Orlando honoring July Perry. The Orange County History Center is working on a special exhibit this year to commemorate the 100th year since the riots. McWhite says it's all needed so the community can continue to heal.
That's a part of healing, when we can communicate about the things in life that hurts us the most.
In Ocoee, Sydney Cameron, Fox 35 News.
There you go. So I'm not sure if you've heard of the Ocoee Massacre, but that was pretty tough seeing that lady talk, listening to her talk about that beautiful woman talk about her relative. Welcome, Mr. Fest Black. I'm glad you're here. I hope you're still here. We got a little crowd tonight, and I'm building up to talking about, I don't really think that most people know our racial history when it comes to just how much white folks did not want the vote to be given to black people and brown people. So I talked about these 3 massacres that had 100% to do with stopping people, terrorizing people from voting. And I gotta say, we've gotten a little more sophisticated, but what we're doing now, it's working. They are making, basically they are stopping people from voting in any way possible. And so that's the last thing I want to do is talk about today. Stacey Abrams started a campaign that I've been advertising on my Facebook page. She started a campaign that is, you know, it's such a cool thing, but I feel like it's desperate. Like we desperately need to do this. And I'm not feeling the love from so many people. Like people are feeling this. This is pretty scary stuff. So I have another video for you. I hope that's okay. And then I want to hear what you have to say after. And this is MSNBC and Stacey Abrams and what she's trying to do to build up support. I don't know if people are just too tired. I don't know if the GOP is just too evil. Trump's been around too long. He's still running the GOP as far as I can tell. But in my mind, if I had to make a definitive bet, I'd say this nation's going down. Not enough people care. They think freedom's free. Well, it's not. I'd make an exit plan. That's personally, and I'm not trying to be like, you know, this hyperbolic, like crazy person, but I mean, you can only see a pattern for so long until you kind of realize it is happening and the pushback's just not enough. So here's my last video of the night, and I appreciate you watching, and I want to know what you have to say about it. I'd love to hear your comments. So let me go over here and try again.
Stolen, pushed by a wannabe autocrat and his. The big lie that the election was stolen, pushed by a wannabe autocrat and his feckless followers, is starting to have real consequences for the future of our democracy. The Associated Press reports that county officials who run elections are quitting or retiring early after facing threats and intimidation during the 2020 presidential election and its aftermath, and the possibility of punishment in some states. That potentially opens up those jobs to various kooks and conspiracy theorists. And in Arizona, we've seen what those conspiracies lead to with the state's ongoing election fraud. But because, you know, cyber ninjas searching for bamboo and ballots in the chicken poop wasn't bonkers enough, Republicans are now pushing to outsource that tomfoolery to other states. As HuffPost points out, there's no chance that audits will reverse the outcome anywhere, but they're clearly meant to undermine faith in American democracy. And according to the Brennan Center, there are currently 389 voter suppression bills in 48 states. And at least 14 states have enacted 22 new laws restricting the vote this year. The Senate could counter those efforts by passing the For the People Act, which would expand voting rights. But with Joe Manchin in opposition, its chances of passing aren't looking so great. That's why, as we enter this hot vax summer, Stacey Abrams is launching her Hot Call Summer campaign, asking supporters to call their senators every day until the For the People Act passes. And I'm joined now by Stacey Abrams, founder of Fair Fight Action and author of Our Time Is Now, available in paperback now, which is a great book. And Stacey, part of what we're seeing with these fake audits, which are also now Georgia Republicans are interested in bringing it to your state. Part of it seems to me that it's GOTV. It's a way to excite their base by saying, don't worry, we won't let the black people vote. But what's scary is it actually could stop a lot of people of color and young people from voting. How worried are you that these efforts, as ludicrous as some of them are, will actually impede people's ability to vote?
Well, I'm deeply concerned because it's worked before. We keep forgetting that voter suppression isn't new, and these are variations on a theme. I talk about it in Our Time Is Now that voter suppression began with the inception of this nation, but what has happened in the 21st century is that it's been digitized, it's been commoditized, and it's been franchised out of the South and across the country. And what we are seeing with the fake audits, with the intimidation of election workers, with the criminalization of simply doing the job of managing democracy, we are seeing attacks on all levels of our democracy, and we should be deeply concerned about it. But we should also remember that it's our democracy, and we have the right to reassert ourselves and to push back. And that's why we are doing Hot Call Summer, and why we are reaching out to every single senator, calling on each of them to do their job and to pass the For the People Act.
And I want you to explain what Hot Call Summer is and how people can get involved in it, because you're right. It's not just Joe Manchin. There are 50 of them, and it's not clear that there are not, even 10 of them who are on the same side as him. With 389 bills in 48 states, every state except Delaware and Vermont is now pushing to make it harder to vote. And again, I think it's partly GOTV, but we're talking about, you're also seeing limiting the power of secretaries of state, or taking away their power if they don't do as they're told. It was bad enough to have a Secretary of State in your state that said, I'm going to make this electorate perfect for myself, and then I'm going to run for governor. What will it mean if some of these really out there people get the job of Secretary of State?
So we've got to pay attention to the fact that these laws do three things. One, they're anti-voter. They are designed to stop voters that the Republicans found inconvenient in this last election, namely young people, people of color, the disabled. Number two, these are anti-election worker bills. They are designed to get good people to abandon their post, to criminalize those who still want to do their job, and to replace them with those who will undermine the administration of elections. And three, they are designed to subvert democracy. And the challenge is, to the extent we have secretaries of state who support and suborn this behavior, they are hastening the demise of our democracy. And this is not hyperbole. This is exactly what happens across the world when past longstanding democracies start to erode. It begins by undermining how people feel, not about the democracy that they have, but about the administration of that democracy. And what this is intended to do is to convince voters that it is not worth the effort. To your point about being GOTV, it's to convince those who decided to show up for the first time, who decided they were going to push through those barriers once more, that it's not worth it. And it's trying to convince those who want to believe the big lie that there is something in it for them on the other side, that if they break down democracy, that they get something better on the other side. And unfortunately, we know that's autocracy. We know that it is not designed for their benefit, and it's not designed for America's benefit.
Yeah. So what do we do? Because I think we talk about this on our calls, and we do our calls. We're like, okay, what is the plan? What is the pushback? What do we do?
So number one, go to stopjimcrow2.com and you can get all this information. But for Hot Call Summer, we're asking everyone to call their U.S. senators, both of them, call them every day. The number is 888-453-3211. 888-453-3211. When you call that number, it's painless. We will connect you to your U.S. senator, both the first one, then you talk to that person, then you call back and do the second one. And yes, there are going to be some U.S. senators who won't answer the phone, who won't return your call, who will argue with you. But this is not about them. This is about them knowing that you know who they are, you know what you deserve, and that we are putting citizenship above partisanship. We need a Hot Call Summer because they need to know that they cannot withstand the force of the American people when we decide to protect our democracy.
And you've been an elected official, Stacey. You know the power of big money. And you know that one of the reasons that big money, people like the U.S. Chamber and Americans for Prosperity oppose S1 is because it would go at the big money. A lot of people feel powerless against that kind of big, dark money. How do we defeat it?
We have to remember that politicians are often motivated by money, peer pressure, or attention. And if we don't have the money to sway them, we can get to them with attention by calling out those who are doing right and calling out those who are not doing their jobs. And then it's peer pressure. It's getting those who are standing on the side of right, giving them all of the attention and support we can, and forcing the other side to recognize that if they want to keep their jobs, they have to do their jobs and protect our democracy. Money is the easiest way to do it, but we've got the power of the people behind us. And if people stand up, especially those who showed up and changed the future of the world in 2020 and in January 2021 here in Georgia, if we can do that, we can do this. And hot call summer is how we're going to get this done.
Have you talked to people like Warnock, Senator Warnock, about whether or not they believe that this kind of a strategy can work? Because he's got to run. He's in this 22. He's on that ballot.
Absolutely. We know that there are a number of U.S. senators who stand to lose their elections in 22 if we do not protect our democracy. But we also have to remember that beyond each individual candidate, it's about who we are as a people. As a nation, are we willing to lose our nation to those who had the failed insurrection in January and decided to franchise it to every single state? The insurrection is continuing, and we've got to stop it in its tracks with the For the People Act through hot call summer.
Stacey Abrams, if you will tweet all of that information out, put it in a tweet, I will retweet it, and our show will retweet it as well. Hot call summer. Thank you very much, Stacey Abrams.
Wow. I thought that was really powerful. I don't really know why every single solitary person who has people watching them or listening, every senator, every politician, every House rep, every famous person, every Hollywood star, every anybody isn't going ballistic over this voting stuff is, I don't know. I think it might be, the pushing us over the proverbial edge, and the twilight of our democracy might come a little sooner than we think. Mr. F.S. Black, the Japanese were compensated for being forced into American intern camps during World War II. The Jewish people were compensated for the Holocaust, which didn't even take place in U.S. soil. When is our turn? Yeah, and I understand. This nation is, okay, I'll just say it again. We have a white person problem in this country. No, we don't have a brown or a black person problem. We have a white person problem. Carried back. Stacey is a force of nature. She's wonderful and wonderfully easy to understand. She's real. I love it. I don't hear other folks speaking like this. And every single solitary person, like I said, hey, you have any group of anything should be screaming. Our nation isn't going to be able to be a Democratic Republic anymore. I mean, at what point do we I don't think it's going to be a point where we say, oh, Trump's above the law, all the politicians are above the law, but we might be at that point, because right now, with like we talked about earlier, with no consequences, no accountability, no changes, I think we're kind of screwed. And to be honest, when I think about the other nations who have had turned into regimes, if we think this is bad, oh God, I think everyone should have an exit plan. And a lot of people say, oh, angry soccer mom, you're so dramatic. But I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime, not even close, where we are just circumventing the Constitution over and over again. The hatred and racism, systemic racism and bigotry is out of control. People, she said it, 48 states. What was the number? 300, and I can look back. I posted it. 389 bills. Oh my God. To stop people from voting, all based on a lie. I think we're in lots of trouble here, and don't ever ask how Nazi Germany happened, because we are you know how that happened. Carried back. AB, I can barely see. AB Studdard said recently the election of 2020 was the last free and fair election of our lifetime. I fear she's correct. Yeah. And the craziest, carry back, the craziest thing is, I think most Americans don't know what's happening. Carry back. I hate to say it, but there are a lot of people who are tired and want to break from 24/7 politics and divisiveness. Yeah. And you know what? I agree with you 100%. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting. Part of what Trump did was he caused so many scandals and so many problems. It just wore everybody down. It really wore everybody down. And people can only take so much. And then the pandemic, and then how the pandemic was handled or not handled at all. People are in really bad shape. And I know it's not, easy for me, this white privileged woman, to say, come on, people, we got to get out there. But come on, people, we got to get out there. I'm sorry. I don't want to be the soothsayer of doom. I'm not a politician. I'm not even overly knowledgeable about politics. I'm just a person who cares about her fellow humans. And the only thing I have going for me is that I have tons of passion and love for my fellow humans. And I see this not going well for quite some time now. And it's awfully scary. I don't know what to say. This is not good. I keep thinking, this is our last chance. This is our last chance. But the bottom line is we have a little less than half the country who believes in absolute lies, doesn't know our racial history, doesn't want to know our racial history, doesn't really seem to care. Just wants to be angry at the wrong people. That's what kills me. The Black people, stop blaming them. The brown people, stop blaming them. I'm sorry. I'm not saying they're victims, but they're innocent victims of us, the white people. I'll say it one more time. We have a white person problem in this country. It's a culture of white supremacy where we truly believe, or at least we love living a fantasy. I don't know how anyone could truly believe. This is not supremacy. Supremacy is when you're good to people and you do the right thing and you use your God-given critical thinking skills and you care about people and you help make the world a better place. Supremacy is not bullying our fellow humans, lying, following lies, perpetuating lies, hurting people. That's not supremacy. I guess they just have the wrong idea of what makes something great. And it's not what we're doing. We're not making it great. We're destroying our own nation. So really sad. I'm going to wrap it up tonight unless anyone has other comments. Carried back. I sure appreciate you, Mr. FS Black. Thank you so much for your comments. Totally spot on. Today was probably I was getting freaking out because nobody came today. I'm really surprised. I didn't put out reminders to anybody, but I was like, dang. But you know what? Sometimes it's nice to have a little crowd, a tinier group. I'm just getting spoiled. So this week, please check out my videos. If you have not subscribed, please consider subscribing without me having to show my feet. Sorry, won't go there, dude. It's sorry, I do have my limits. Although that was kind of funny. I'm pretty easygoing with that kind of stuff. Carry back. I have been a faithful nightly 3-hour of MSNBC viewer, but the past 2 to 3 months, I have found myself wanting to substitute reruns of Schitt's Creek. What is that? And Mary Tyler Moore. Yes. All Lily White cast. Yeah. People, I understand. People are so spent and they're exhausted. And I know a lot of folks who, oh my gosh, I used to have so many people come in to watch the show. Thank you. I used to have so many people coming to watch the show and stuff, and a lot of my friends just wrote in saying, I'm just tired. I don't want to talk about this anymore. And I totally understand that. And I don't blame them one bit. But I'm going to keep talking about it because as a white person, I feel like it's part of taking racial responsibility for me, even if the only thing I'm doing is maybe another white person will see me talking about racism and how relatively comfortable I am talking about it. I wasn't always this comfortable. Oh my God, hell no, 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 no. I had to become comfortable. I'm actually really shy. Lo and behold, the truth's been spoken. I'm actually incredibly shy with tons of anxiety. And so what did it say? Schitt's Creek is? That's like shit, like in like, no, I don't. Am I reading it wrong? Because I can't see very well with my contacts on. Nope. I don't know what it is. Is that terrible? I don't have is it a TV show? I guess I'm missing out. But anyway, thank you so much for those of you who are here for the live part. And I will see you hopefully next week. And if you believe like I do, that it is way past time for white America to learn our real racial history and use our voices and our privilege to support real equity and justice. Okay. And stop believing all these propagandist lies. The worst thing or the best thing we could all do is unite against the wealthiest elites and say, we are done. And if you can say this systemic racism and cruelty ends with me, and if enough of us do it, it will end. And so thank you so much. I don't even know what the show is. Oh my God. I'm like, okay, I have to tell you, Carrie back. I have to make a confession. As you get to know me better, you will understand I don't know crap about pop culture. I know nothing. Like I know, it's like I'm a movie star walked by. Thank you, Carrie back. You're so sweet. I would not be like in awe of them because I wouldn't know they were a movie star. And when I lived right near Hollywood, I probably passed by tons of like famous people who I should be bowing down to, but it's just not my bag, baby. So I really don't know a lot about pop culture. I'm really bad. I'm getting a little bit better, but I'm not worthy. So thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great night. And hopefully I will check out some of the videos that I've put on, if you would, and pass them around if you think it would do someone some good. All right. So thanks for being here. And I really appreciate it. All right. Good night, everybody. Hopefully I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.